Hi, this is your host. We're only about 3 weeks away from the new year, and so I thought it would be appropriate to do a video on the Mayans and their 2012 prophecy. You see, there are a lot of misconceptions about this ancient Mesoamerican civilization. Many people believe that the Mayans predicted the end of the world for December 2012. However, the truth is that these predictions were made by a small group of Mayan scholars who were trying to warn their people of impending environmental doom. The situation was dire because in the 19th century, the Maya were suffering through a horrible drought that lasted for several years. This drought caused widespread famine, and people began to die in great numbers. The Maya were already struggling with overpopulation and warfare, and then this drought came along and made things even worse. So they turned to their sacred books for guidance and found some passages that they believed foretold the end of the world. They saw signs of the apocalypse all around them and believed that the end was near. But what did the Mayan prophecies actually say? Well, let me tell you. According as described by the Mayan priests, first the earth would tremble. Then the sun would change its color. Next, the moon would fall from the sky and the stars would fall to the earth. Also, there would be no more day or night, but instead an unending day. Finally, there would be a great deluge that would destroy everything. Now, after reading this, you might think that the Mayans were crazy, but you have to remember that they lived in a time when people believed that the sun and the moon were gods. It was also common for people to interpret natural phenomena, such as droughts and famines, as signs of divine displeasure. When you view things through that lens, the Mayan prophecies don't seem so far-fetched. In fact, they were probably trying to warn their people of the very real possibility of extinction. So why does this matter today? Well, because there are still many people who believe that the Mayan prophecies foretold the end of the world. Some people even believe that the world did end in 2012, but somehow we just missed it. However, as I said before, these predictions were not found in any ancient Mayan texts. They were made by a small group of Mayan scholars who were trying to warn their people of impending environmental doom. In fact, the ancient Maya believed that the world would end on December 21st, 2012 because that was the last day of the 13th Baktun, which is the longest period of time in the Mayan calendar. But just because the long count calendar ended doesn't mean that the world was going to end. In fact, in Mayan culture, death was just a transition to another life, and the end of one cycle was seen as the beginning of another. The Mayans didn't have a word for either heaven or hell, so they probably didn't believe in an afterlife in the traditional sense. Instead, they believed that when a person died, their soul simply moved on to another realm of existence. So why do so many people believe that the Mayan prophecies foretold the end of the world? Well, part of it has to do with the fact that there are so many misconceptions about this ancient civilization. Many people don't realize that the Maya were not a monolithic culture, but were actually made up of many different groups of people who spoke different languages and had different customs. The Maya also didn't leave behind any written records. So much of what we know about them comes from archaeological evidence and the interpretations of scholars. All of this has led to a lot of confusion and misunderstanding. And unfortunately, many people have taken these ancient prophecies out of context and used them to support their own beliefs. Some people believe that the Mayan prophecies are still relevant today and that we are living in the days leading up to the apocalypse. Others believe that the world did end in 2012, but for some reason, we're still here. But the truth is that these prophecies were never meant to predict the end of the world. They were just a warning from a group of Mayan scholars who were trying to save their people from extinction. So, what do you think? Do you believe that the Mayan prophecies foretold the end of the world? Or do you think that these predictions were just based on the conditions that the Maya were experiencing in the 19th century? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And now for something completely different. As many of you know, I'm also the host of a show. Recently, we did an episode on aliens and ancient civilizations. It was a really fun episode to research, and I think it's one of our best so far. If you haven't checked it out yet, please go to our channel and give it a watch. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.